Okay. Do you guys have any questions for me before we get started? No? Okay. You need to make sure you have a pencil with an eraser, and if you want to have colored pencils nearby. Okay. Shh, hush up. My dogs are getting antsy. All right, looking good. Here we go. All right. We're going to begin by drawing a horizon line really low on our paper, just to put the ground down for the logs that they're going to be seated on, and so that the fire pit has a space, so it's not just floating there on your paper. And if you want to take your line right off the edges too, you can take the line right off the edges of your paper. I didn't mean to stop there. Okay, looks like Jacob is joining us right now. So wait till he gets logged on real quick. Okay. Hi, Jacob. Let's see. So we've got Liam and Emma. All right. All right, Jacob, we have just begun our drawing. So um, if you can hear me, you're going to want to have your paper turned so that it's in landscape orientation. You want it wide in front of you. Okay, looks like you're still getting yourself set up there. Okay, we're going to begin with the fire pit because we want to make sure that it's in the middle of our paper. So that's where we're going to start our drawing. That way we're sure to have enough room for each of our characters on each side. Okay, so to build the fire pit, we're going to start at the bottom and we're going to just use a curved line for the bottom of the fire pit. But we don't want to make it really big, right? Because we have to make sure that our animals have plenty of space. So, but also you don't want to make it too small where it looks not like big enough for a fire, where it just looks silly. So, um, I guess that's about like 1/3 of your paper across the bottom. It's just a slightly curved line to show that it's a three-dimensional object on our papers. And then we're going to come off of each end of this line. This line looks like a smile. We're going to come up with a vertical line. It's going to go up and it's going to overlap the horizon. And whenever we're overlapping, that means that one object is meant to look as if it is closer to the viewer, which is us. And so we have to erase inside of that shape so that it looks like it's in front. But fortunately, all we have to erase out of there is the horizon line, so there's not too much to bother with right there. And then we're going to do another one of these curved lines at the top. So we're going to come along and curve it around at the top also. But we need to show the inside of it just a little bit. So we're going to do a third curved line, but this time this curved line curves up and goes from side to side, so that it looks like a cylinder, three-dimensional form. We're going to be adding some detail to this fire pit, but let's just leave it there for now. We've got it blocked in. We'll come back to it. We'll add some logs, some bricks, some flames, some smoke, all that good stuff. But we're going to come over here to the right side and we're going to begin our polar bear. But first, we have to give him something to sit on. So he's going to be sitting on a log. So over here, we're just going to draw a circle. Now the bottom of the circle is pretty much in line with the bottom of the fire pit, and it may or may not overlap your horizon depending on how high up your horizon line is. But if it's overlapping, just erase inside of that circle. So we're looking at our the entire scene in profile view. So we're only going to see the end of the log. We're not going to see the length of the log. We're just going to see the end of it. So we're going to show a circle there, and we're going to come over to this side about the same distance away, and we're going to draw another one of these circles. for the other log. Now we're not worrying too much about like, oh, is the polar bear too far away from the fire? Because we can always make his skewer, that's that stick that he's got his marshmallow on. We can make that as long as we need it to be. Oftentimes, like if you were roasting on a stick, you would find a stick that was in the woods that was long enough to reach your fire. Or if you were, maybe he's in his yard and he has some skewers that he ordered off of Amazon, and those would be extendable. So he could make them short or long, however, whatever length they needed them to be. So, however, you want to imagine this scene being, we don't have to really worry too much about how close or far away our animals end up being from the fire. As long as they're not in the fire, we're doing good. So these are going to be logs. We'll come back and add some detail to those, but let's go ahead and get our bear started. So his feet are going to be positioned like this in front of the fire. So just a little oval right here to show that his feet are extended out in front of him. And from the bottom of the oval, that would be like where his heel is, we're going to draw a line that comes up to the log. This is where his hiney would be. He'd be sitting on the log like this. So it's a diagonal line, but it's a bit curved like this. And I'm overlapping the log just a little bit, where that's where he's sitting. So he's sitting on top of that log, and we're going to erase that horizon line from inside of his body also. Get it out of his foot and out of that space where his body is going to go. And we're going to come back down to this oval where his foot is. And we're going to bring another line from the top of it, not up here where his toes are, but where his ankle would be. So down a little bit, but it's going to be the top of his leg. And we're going to draw a shorter diagonal line. His body's going to be a bit round, so we don't want to bring this line all the way up and make him too skinny, because we don't want our polar bear to look like he's starving to death. We want it to look like he's a good, healthy polar bear, plenty to eat. And so we're going to bring this line right here that we curved up, this for his leg, his bottom, and now we're going to bring this line up to create his back. So it's a little bit of a diagonal, and we're going to go up however tall you want your bear to be. I think I'll stop right about there. So I'm going about halfway up my paper. Scoot my paper down so you can see. And I will have to judge later if that's too tall or too short, but for now I think that'll be good. Remember, when we're drawing as artists, we have to make adjustments. We don't always get it exactly right the first time, but sometimes we do. So those times that we don't, we just have to be flexible and know that it's okay that it's not exactly right the first time, and just make our adjustments as we go. Okay, we're going to see a little bit of his other foot kind of peeking up above back here, just a little bit of it. So we're going to do a curved line coming from like the top of this oval, curving up. Bring it back down to his other leg. And we're going to see a little bit of this leg in the back. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go towards the top of the foot, but not up to the toes, just toward the top. And we're going to bring this other diagonal line coming forward. Let me see if that was okay. No. Let me double check in case there's anyone trying to join. I don't think so. I've got yep. Got everybody. Okay. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go to this this front leg, which is here, and we're going to scooch down this leg just a little bit, so just a little bit, and we're going to draw a curved line for his tummy, like this. So this leg is in front just a little bit, and then the faraway leg, the leg on the other side, well, it's being overlapped by his tummy. I'm just going to draw a little bit of his tummy there. We're going to extend this line, but I'm making it short right now so it makes sense to you guys. So you're not like, What is happening? Okay, so that's his tummy. So let's continue this line up. So it's going to come up to his chest and then up where his neck would be. Okay, so yeah, so I can tell already maybe this is a little too tall. I'm going to bring this line, I'm going to change this line, make it a little shorter, and maybe scoot it a little bit closer. Whoa, my pencil's jumping out of my hands. There we go. Now, polar bears don't have like a long, narrow neck. It's pretty, their necks are pretty wide, almost as wide as their heads, which is different than humans. And so, if there's a big, wide space up here, that's fine because their necks would be wide. And then we're going to draw the head. So, in the front, we're going to start just inside of this body space, and we're going to come out of this space with a curved line, and then this line gets diagonal in direction. It comes up and it starts to go in a diagonal direction up and curves around for the back of his head. This. I feel like I made my nose. Maybe it's a little too narrow. Maybe it's a bigger curve. That. And we're going to add some polar bear ears on top. So right up on top of the head, we're going to do a little curved circle, half circle, a semicircle for one of the ears. That this is the ear that's closest to us. And then we're going to see only part of the other ear, sort of peeking from back behind here. We wouldn't see the inside of the faraway ear because it would be facing the opposite direction. We'll come back and do the face in a bit. Let's get his arms put on here. He looks a little strange, still just kind of sitting there without his arms. So let's do those next. We're going to come up here. His shoulders would be, underneath his head. Imagine he had a neck. His shoulders would be right about here. Or you could draw the shoulder, or you could just come straight out of this body shape with a kind of a curved diagonal line. And we're going to draw a curved line at the end. This is going to be the end of his shirt sleeve. And then we're going to bring this line back to his body. Now this arm is on the side that's closest to us and it's overlapping his body. So we have to erase inside of there. And the other arm, we're not going to see the bottom of the other arm. It's going to just be peeking from behind over here. And we're going to bring it forward like this as a diagonal line. His hands are going to be super simple. They're going to be, we're only seeing the back of his paw because his fingers and all that, they're on the inside. We are not even going to see any of that business. So to make his paw, you're just going to do a curved line coming from the bottom of his sleeve. And the other hand would maybe connect there too. You wouldn't see any of that because of the paw that's in the front, it's going to be covering up the paw that's in the back. So even though it's turned in, you're not going to see the fingers or any of that business. You don't have to mess with any of that. Okay, so we have our bear right where we want him. Let's go ahead and add some details like his pants and his sweater and his face, of course. So I'm going to start up here at his neck and I'm going to put the top of his sweater on here with a curved line. And sweaters usually have like this kind of puffy collar, making it a little wider than his body, the collar. And sweaters usually have these, when they have these big puffy collars, they usually have these lines going through them. Makes them stretchy, a nice knitted sweater. And I'm going to do the same thing down here on his sleeves. So I have a curved line in place already for his sleeve, but I'm going to I'm going to extend it a little further out from his arm just to make it look a little puffier. A little puffier, a little fluffier, wider than his arm, wider than his wrist. So I'm going to change it and make it a little bit thicker, and then I'm going to add some more of these lines. This time the lines are going to go horizontally. Now he's looking quite dapper. I'm going to do, now we're not going to see much of this one in the back, but I am going to do change this line so it goes up above the arm just a little bit. Erase inside of there so that the sleeve ends match. That way this area doesn't get confusing. You can see the ends of the sleeves and where his paws begin. And then down here beneath his arms, this is where the sweater is going to end. So I'm going to draw a curved line across like so. And guess what I'm going to do? Yes, I'm going to make the waist of the sweater a little puffier, a little stretchy and a little puffy. So I'm going to go outside of the body shape just a little bit. Just a little bit. And then I'm going to add these lines in here that give it the stretch effect. So now here at the bottom where the feet are, we already have the bottom of the pants. So it does now look like he has pants on, and now it looks like he has a top on. So he's fully clothed at this point. You could add a little tail back here too if you wanted to, a little tiny tail. And we're seeing this in profile, so we don't have to show a hole in the pants. There would be one for his tail to poke out. Just like at Build-A-Bear, whenever you buy clothes for your Build-A-Bear, there's a hole in the pants for the tails. Now your bear could be wearing shoes if you wanted to envision these as shoes, or you could imagine that he had toenails if you wanted to. However you want to interpret his feet. Do little paw pads on the bottom if you want to. Just some different ideas. Or maybe he's wearing house slippers in the shape of bear's feet. That would be hilarious. You could add any kind of design to his pants also if you wanted to make them striped or plaid or polka dotted pants. You could add any kind of design you wanted to there. Now for the log underneath his hiney, I'm just going to do a spiral like this to show that the log has rings, because they do. When trees get cut down, you can see a grain of rings going round and around on that edge there. Now, if you wanted to make this look a little more three-dimensional, you could add a diagonal line here along the bottom of this log to show that it goes back underneath him. That's an option too. If you're like, oh, this doesn't look quite right, what is it missing? Maybe this make it look more realistic, a little diagonal line there. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the bear's face right up here. We're going to add a nose. So I'm just going to do a very small little diagonal line or horizontal line coming off the end of the snout, and I'm going to pull a little curved line back down. So this would become his nose right here. And then from the bottom of his nose is where his mouth would be. And then his eyes are going to be up here in this part of his head. So right in here. And you can do your eyes however you want. I'm just going to keep them very simple and make them little ovals. I'm going to give him a little eyebrow like this. If you wanted to add other winter clothing to him, you could maybe give him a scarf, or you could add a hat. Whatever you felt like you wanted to add to personalize it, you can go for it. Like if you want to do stripes on the sweater, or maybe it's an ugly sweater you want to give him. We're going to scooch across the fire pit. I know we still need to add his skewer and his marshmallow and his flames and all that, but we're going to go to the other side of our paper and we're going to draw our walrus next. And it's the same idea. We're going to see our walrus in profile, and he's just sitting on the log with his tail extended out in front of him. So we're going to begin with his tail, just like we began with our bear's feet. We're going to begin with our walrus's tail. Okay, so right over here, we're just going to draw bumpy lines. So the top of the tail, and then some smaller little bumps, and then the bottom of the tail. I'm going to bring the bottom of the tail, I'm going to bring this up as a diagonal line up, and I'm going to overlap the log just a little bit and curve it up, just like we did with our polar bear. And then remember, we had to erase inside of that space. Now, I imagine my creatures being about the same height, so I'm going to continue this line that is his tail and his hiney, and now we're going to go up his back. He's just going to go up and curve over. So his back is a bit more rounded than our polar bear. Now, walruses don't have necks at all. I mean, I'm sure they do, anatomically, there's probably a neck, but from the outside, we don't really see what appears to be what we know of as a neck or how necks look on other animals. So, this line is just going to continue curving up and around for the walrus's head like this. Now we're going to make the face by curving this line back just a little bit. So we're giving him a bit of a chin right here by bringing this line back just a little bit. Okay. And his head is about in line with our polar bear's head. So it looks like my walrus is a little bit shorter than my polar bear, but more or less, if you're not sure, take a look at your polar bear and do they more or less line up? If so, you're doing real good. Now, from the bottom of this curved line where we came in a little bit for the walrus's chin, we're just going to come down for the front of the body, the chest and the tummy. And then what we're going to do is a curved line right here to come out into where the tail is. So this becomes chest, tummy, and then it curves out toward the tail like that. Now, of course, instead of arms and paws, our walrus has like these flippers. So we're going to add his flippers next. And so they're going to come from, you would imagine again, like if this was the neck, there would be a shoulder here. And then from here, you would see the flippers curving out like this. And kind of like how we did the tail, we're going to do this little kind of bumpy line here. So it's going to go like bump, bump, bump. And we're going to bring this back to inside his body. Of course, this arm is in front, which means it's overlapping the body, so you have to erase inside of it. I think I made his fingers. These aren't fingers. Not sure what you would call them, but let me change the. I had one of them way too long. It looked a little bit weird, like he was pointing at the polar bear. Okay, so we're going to show a little bit of the far away flipper, just like here we did with the polar bear. So we're just going to drop in here into this space like this and add that far away flipper. Not really going to see much of it at all. Now he has a tail, so we don't see, there's no second tail to add. We don't have to worry about that like we did with our polar bear. He's a little bit more simple to draw. Okay, so we're going to come up here to his face, and we're going to add a mouth right here toward the bottom of his face like this. I'm just using a curved line because I'm going to give him some tusks. So I'm putting my curved line there, and then I'm going to add some tusks. So a walrus tusk. Oh, this is just like kind of looks like a carrot, an upside down carrot right there. And it's on top, so I have to be sure and erase inside of it because it's doing the overlapping. And we might see a little bit of his tusk on the other side, so we'll come down and just show part of the other side like that. And these critters have whiskers too, so we're going to add some whiskers right here and then some from the other side also. Just some simple little diagonal lines, like if you were adding whiskers to a cat. And I'm going to do the same kind. I'm going to give him the same kind of eye that the polar bear has. So up here in this space, just up above his mouth, is his eye and a little eyebrow. Now we're going to give this guy a scarf and a little winter hat. So his scarf is going to go around his neck. So if you have room here, I'm not sure I'm sure we all did the tusks a little bit differently, but the scarf would be coming from where his chin is. So we would do a curved line across his body, this. And then we would want to make it, a second line so we could see it as a shape rather than a line for his scarf. And just like the polar bear's sleeves are a little bit puffier to show that it's wrapping around, that it's three-dimensional, we're going to come off the back side here with just a little curved line that goes out just a little bit further than his body. So it helps to add to the illusion of a three-dimensional effect. And we're just going to show the ends of the scarf kind of coming down from inside of this space right here. We'll do two of these little ends right here. That helps fill in this space so that his body doesn't look so blank and empty. Let the ends of the scarf dangle there. Now you could do little dashes like I did, or maybe you want to do little pom-poms on the end, however you want to decorate his scarf. And then, like I said, we're going to give him a little hat. So the hat needs to overlap his head just a little bit. So we're going to do a little curved line across the top of his head. And I'm just using a kind of a soft line, and I'm going to make a triangle shape so that it looks like his hat is made from material. And because it's overlapping, we have to erase the top of his head from inside of this shape. Sort of looks like a Hershey Kiss that's melting a little bit. And then you want to add some pom-poms, or I'm using a little bumpy line on the top for his hat, but you could use little diagonal lines if you wanted to make it look spiky on the top. And you could add another line right here if you wanted to give it this effect, like a sweater, like something that's been woven and is a little bit stretchy. And then maybe if you wanted to show some tassels, like the strap, if he were to tie it under his chin, there'd be a little strap to his hat. I'm just going to do some little polka dots inside of here. Now they have noses, but not really going to see much of a nose. I'm just going to do a little curved line to suggest a nostril, because their noses don't stick far out from their faces, like a horse or a dog, or even humans. Our noses stick out away from our face. Their noses are kind of more or less just like nostrils on their faces. Add a little nostril right there. And then the next thing we want to do is drop down and add this detail, some spirals, to make it look like a wooden texture inside of the log that he's sitting on. So add some of these rings inside of here. I'm using a spiral line for this. It's so easy. And then if you want to add a diagonal line to show that this log is going back underneath him to create that illusion of depth, this little diagonal line on the bottom will do that. Okay. I'm going to come up into the sky really quick. I'm going to add a few stars. I'm going to put a crescent moon up here in the sky. I just want to fill in this space just a little bit. So I'm going to put some of the night sky features up here, because I imagine that they're roasting their marshmallows at nighttime. Just a few of these little things. You could draw a shooting star if you wanted to. Maybe you want to draw Jupiter or Venus in the sky. What do you want to do? You could even draw, let's see. Is this Caden chatting with me? Let's see. Oh, it's Dylan. Walruses are brown. Oh, okay. Yes, they are. Did I say something different? Did I say they were white or something silly like that? Okay. If you wanted to, you could add some silhouettes of trees in the background. You wouldn't have to add too much detail. You could add a trunk, and you could use one of these jagged lines like this. If you wanted to add some trees to the back night sky. I didn't do a great job there, right? My tree trunk is way bigger than my tree top. Oh my goodness. But for now, I think we should probably come back over here and work on this fire pit and get these marshmallows roasting. Okay, so let's get the fire going right inside of here. We're going to draw the flames first. So along the bottom in here, I'm going to start with a curved line for the bottom of the fire. And we can do this so many different ways, and I don't want you to worry too much about how your fire looks, but basically we're coming off of one end and we're going to do a wavy line going up. And this takes us to the point of a flame, and then you can follow that line back down. You can curve it and do another one of these flames going up, follow it back down. So that gives you two flames, and then you can build on that. So, or if you can fit 3 or 4 in there, however many you want to do. So I've got a basic flame in there, 2 of them, but I don't want this empty space inside of here. So I'm going to come up to either side, either one of my flames, and I'm going to fill in a third one right here, like that. So now my fire looks like it's deep. There are levels of flames. You could even come off the side and add another one if you wanted more fire. However much room you have in your pictures to add your fire. So we did the fire first because we wanted to make sure that it fit into your picture very nicely. And then inside of this fire pit, we're going to add some sticks. So from the bottom of your fire, you're just going to come to the edges of your fire pit. I'm going to do little circles at the ends of each of my sticks. So I'm doing diagonal lines coming down, little circles off the ends. Just a few of these to help fill in the space. All right, so what you're going to do next is we're going to draw sticks coming from their hands, or they could be skewers. But leave room at the end because we're going to be adding marshmallows. So I'm really just drawing parallel lines coming from their hands toward the fire. And then on the end of each of these, you're just going to draw a soft little marshmallow. So it's a cylinder shape. We don't necessarily see the top or bottom, but if you wanted to, that's how we do a cylinder. It's and they've got curved edges, so it wouldn't be like you wouldn't want any sharp edges. So it's sort of like a rectangle with curved edges. And if you wanted to show the top, you'd just do a little circle in there, just like we did on these logs. They both have their marshmallows. You could make one, oh, maybe the walrus caught his on fire. Oh my goodness, you know how that happens sometimes. You're like, oh, my marshmallow, it's ruined. Well, no, it's not ruined. Usually they taste really good when they get a little bit burned. Y'all are like, no. I'm adding some little wispy, kind of irregular organic lines to look like smoke coming off of the fire. So these are just like scribbles almost to make it look smoky. There we go. Now, there's only really one other thing I wanted to add, and you guys are of course welcome to add anything else that you desire. But I'm going to come down here to the fire pit, and I'm going to add a few more of these curved lines from side to side because I want to make it look like it's been put together with some bricks. So, well, I only have room for 2 of these. Now, bricks, when you build something with bricks, they're offset, so they're not going to line up with each other. And so I'm going to come inside of this top row. I'm going to divide this up into some bricks that are about the same size. But then inside of the middle of each one of those is where my next row begins. So they don't line up, they're offset. So you go to the center of each one and bring the next row of bricks down. And then in your next row, you do the same thing. Go to the center of the brick up above it and bring your lines down. This is the same way we do fish scales and bird feathers. It's offset. All right, you guys. Well, there we have it. Polar bear roasting marshmallows. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this screen so you guys can share your work with me. Let me see, Charlie. Let me see. Hold it steady for me. Oh, very nice. How sweet. I love it. Great job, bud. That looks terrific. Good job. I love all your details. Such a good job, buddy. Thank you so much for sharing. Let's see, Jacob, do you want to share? See what you did. What did you do today? All right. Way to go. Looking good, Jacob. Good job, honey. All right, let's see. Kaden, do you want to share? I see Annabelle. Annabella's still working. Annabella, do you want to share, honey? Let's see what you've got.
I was coloring, but
Oh, you're coloring. Oh, very nice. Ooh la la. Way to go. Oh, you filled in that space so nice. Good job, Annabella. That looks great. Oh, Dylan was coloring too. Dylan, that looks excellent. Very cute. You guys are so talented. Jacob, what in the world is that? You don't know. Kaden, do you want to share? I don't know. Maybe he can't hear us. Your camera's off and I can't see you, but Kaden, if you want to share, we'd love to see what you did today. Okay. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me this month and drawing polar bears with me every week.
Avocado from Mexico.
Jacob, you're silly. Avocados from Mexico. I know that commercial. It's one of my favorites. All right, you guys. Have a great rest of your evening. Enjoy the rest of your time off from school. And I hope I'll see you again.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, guys.